It's really about moving paint across a surface as opposed to applying it with a brush. That's when I really had my breakthrough, when I started using sculptural tools with the paint. So it really brought me into that third dimension where I was capturing the paint in those instances, those motions of expression. And that's when I really started to like my work, was when I kind of put brushes aside and really started just using the palette knife. Then I started making my own palette knives, and with every different change, it pushed my work to a different space. It's all been a process of experimentation and serendipity, finding things that work, taking those things that work and making them a tool for future work. It's like every work is an evolution, to the next. So everyone incorporates something from a previous piece. It's an extremely joyful process for me to work with such vibrant, saturated colors. So this is one of the tools that I've custom made. So I've ground the edges down to create these custom areas and kind of graduated circles to create, some very textured effects and stuff. And this is another one that I've made here. I'm going to use all different shapes, and sizes. Like that's kind of got like an angle, and there's a kind of a spade, and this one's cool because the paint pushes out in between the little tines there, and presses through and creates some really, really cool like effects when you pull it through. So some of those areas of expression, those finer areas where the paint becomes thin, where it's pulling away from the surface, those can become very brittle, especially with water-based paint. So over time, that would degrade, they could break, they're less color fast. So I like the plasticity of oils. They cure over time, they form a skin, they shrink. They're much more, I think, of a dynamic medium. I think there's a broader range of colors potentially in acrylics, but I just like the feel. It's very visceral working with oils. That's about 15 years of used paint tubes and caps and other things. So one day I'm going to make a giant sculpture out of it. Drop. That's what's left. You get all of it when you do it that way. A little bit at the end, and there's nothing wasted then. I'm going to use the crimper again on this. There are times when I become very frustrated with pieces and I'm just over it, and I'll have all this extra paint, and one day I remember I was working on a piece and I scraped it off, didn't know what to do, and I was basically just like, fuck it. And I just picked all the paint up and threw it at it, and it was awesome. So I know there are other artists that have thrown paint and stuff, but I think throwing copious amounts of oil paint is something that is interesting and new, and kind of using the gravity to even spread it out even further and create more expression with that. But yeah, I like to just squeeze out these gigantic piles of oil paint, sometimes hundreds of dollars of paint onto the palette all at once, and just pick it up and just throw it at the highest possible velocity and see what happens. My work is more going in a direction or gravitating towards abstracted works. I feel a lot freer when not painting specific subjects, and it becomes more about balancing color and shape and more about pure expression. I think it brings me more pleasure to paint things that are non-representational, because I think it challenges the viewer to have their own connection with the work, to create their own dialogue, to see something that only they see, and to use their imagination. I started using some gilding techniques in the background of some of my works, and even embedding some of the foils into the paint itself. And I discovered it was a big challenge at first to make them both work. They didn't sit right together. The oil paint, different flat surfaces, completely different a process. The gilding is a very painstaking step-by-step thing. You have to do it just right. It's very delicate. You have to seal it to protect from oxidation, all of that stuff. But once I found the way to use them together, or just by themselves, it's been a really fun and interesting medium to work with. Half of art is creating the piece, taking the time and dedication, crafting a unique style, and actually making something. But the other entire half of that is sharing it with the world. As if you're creating in a vacuum, and no one gets to see it, no one's moved by it, you miss the other whole half of the purpose of art, which is to inspire others and to bring joy, life, and color into other people's personal spaces and lives.